Welcome to the Theater of Others podcast. My name is Adam Marple, and I'm the co-artistic director of the Theater of Others. With the COVID-19 pandemic forcing a shutdown and reevaluation of space and gathering, we at the Theater of Others are thinking about what stories we need and how best we can share them. We believe space is psychology, and it informs the way in which an audience interacts and reacts to what is presented to them. We create uniquely theatrical events in bespoke sensory performance spaces crafted to encourage curiosity and grant the audience permission to commune with the play. Now that space has moved online, how can we encourage interaction and action amongst an audience virtually? The Theater of Others produces plays that both welcome and challenge the audience. We are committed to international collaboration and are a laboratory that helps artists grow through intensive study of their craft. The Theater of Others creates a shared community of artists and audiences for the purpose of exploring the most profound issues of our lives and times. We believe the play watches the audience. The audience is necessary, and they are witness to what happens. And you get to be witness to us making that happen. The purpose of this podcast is to open up our process and let you in. We're peeling back the curtain, so to speak, and encouraging you to follow along, to ponder, prod, and question, to join us and criticize us if need be. Being a witness is no passive task, and it requires much from you. Are you up for the journey? On the podcast today from Melbourne, Australia, are co-artistic directors Budi Miller and myself in Cairo, Egypt. This podcast contains explicit language.
Hi, Adam.
Hiya, Budi.
How you going?
Ooh, glass of wine.
The blood of Christ.
Compels you. Wow. Glass of wine. Jack, we'll cut that out. That'll just...
Jack, you will not cut that out. Jack,
You
will not cut that out.
You will, because you
Jack.
spiked the monitors.
Ah.
I'll just mark that as a thing to cut out.
Yeah, just don't mark that. You can't mark that. Okay, so don't start with me. Look at me, Adam. Look, I have styled myself.
You were styling and profiling. It's.
I'm giving you Beyonce. I'm giving you Dapper
Lumberjack
Dan.
Lumberjack chic.
I'm giving you lumberjack chic. This is so. This. Do you know what designer this is?
I'm sure you're about to tell me.
You tell me.
Virgil Abloh.
No.
Well, then it's worth.
I love that you know who Virgil Abloh is, and Virgil Abloh was the designer of what brand?
Uniqlo, Zara, H&M. I don't know. BCBG, Max Mara.
Jack, can you mark this and delete this because
Old Navy? I don't know.
You are so white. You're so white. I'm doing the Beyonce like comb my braids gesture. You know how the black girls when they wear the cowboy hats, they comb their braids down with their fingers. Yeah. This is Gucci.
Okay, cool.
This is pandemic Gucci. I bought this during the pandemic. This was what Gucci was doing during the pandemic. Studded flannel. And then I'm giving you a red beanie because I am what? Every man.
I like the red beanie.
It's cute, right?
I like the red beanie.
You don't like... But wait. You don't like my shirt?
How much did you pay for that shirt?
It doesn't matter how much I pay for the shirt. I don't remember what I paid for. It was during the pandemic.
It matters
Everything
to
was
me.
free during the pandemic.
Nothing was free in the pandemic. Absolutely nothing was free. Everything was so expensive
Everything
in the
was
pandemic.
free during the pandemic.
Toilet paper was expensive in the pandemic.
Adam, I have no idea. I honestly have like all of my pandemic shopping was a blur. My husband was in crisis because every single day there were boxes, not just one box. There were boxes of purchased goods.
Exactly.
From my pandemic suffering. That's how I survived. That's how I survived the trauma of the pandemic.
You were a day away from being evicted and living in cardboard boxes based on your spending.
All of my clothing came in cardboard boxes those days, honey.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here trying to buy bamboo toilet paper online and getting a bidet. That was my spending. My pandemic spending was that.
Oh, girl, it was. Oh my god, it because everything was cheap because people were giving things away. People were trying to. I had disposable income, so I was
And you
loading
disposed
up
of it.
on.
Yeah.
No, I was loading up on my collection.
hmm hmm
My
They were getting
wardrobe
rid
is a
of
collection.
all the fashionable stuff so they could come in with all the sweatpants of 2021,
Yes,
2022. Yes.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly. So I I got on board just in enough time to get everything that I needed. So now
Mm.
my wardrobe is thickening,
hmm
and I don't ever need to shop again.
I'm sure Akshay is very happy with that statement.
I've actually been very good. I've been very good. What's the last thing that I what's the last what is the last big purchase I can't even remember.
Mm. So good.
So it didn't happen. So it didn't even happen.
Yeah.
No
If
large
I don't
purchases for
if
2024.
if I don't remember it, then it didn't happen, officer.
If I don't remember it, it didn't happen. If I don't remember the price, it didn't have one.
Right. Sounds like
I
good
in the
logic
old
to me.
days, in the old days, Akshay would ask how much, and I would say it was on sale.
That was the answer. Yeah. It's on sale from 18,000 to
That was the
15,000.
price. But that was the
Yep.
price. The price was it was on sale. I got it on
The price
sale.
the price was I saved you some money. Yeah.
I saved us some money.
Yeah.
When you're married, it's about us. Okay?
Yeah.
It's about us.
hmm Yeah.
But this is it's now vintage because what this is like
4 years old.
2019.
Oh my god, yeah.
5
Vintage.
years old. It's vintage.
Wow.
I'm wearing
Vintage.
vintage Gucci. This was when Dapper Dan was the designer for Gucci. He had just taken over, and this was one of his first designs. You don't like the studs? I love the studs.
They're great. How much was it?
It was on sale. And why are you asking me dumb questions? Don't you have better questions to ask me?
I mean, I ask questions all the time. Doesn't mean I always get the answers to them, you know.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we need to deal with the question that you sent me 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we had somebody call into SpeakPipe and leave a question on there. I should play it on air here, right?
Yeah, can you please play this question on air while I turn my heater down because I'm warm. This
Okay.
is global warming, honey.
Mm-hmm.
Play it. I want to hear it.
Good evening, sir. I have a question for the expert. Um, as a precursor to imagination, what do you need? I mean, everybody's got imagination, of course, but engaging imagination, what is a precursor that you think blocks the ability to engage and participate and tap into imagination? Yeah. What are the 3, 4 things that need to be worked on or need to be understood or need to be cleared so that imagination can be engaged? Thank you.
Long-time listener, first-time caller, Adam Marple has a question for us about imagination.
For me, that was sent to me specifically. I was
To
like,
you,
when I got
exactly.
that, and of course, you send me these messages while I'm sleeping because you're in Cairo and I'm in
Mm-hmm.
Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wake up to this message and I'm like, how did I respond? What did I write?
You You wrote back. This is what happens. This is what. Sorry, I'll write back. You
What'd
wrote
I
back what
say?
you said imagination blockers, which I agree with all of these things, imagination blockers. But what I'm specifically asking for is the
Okay,
precursor:
what are imagination blockers? Okay, what are imagination blockers?
habits, literal interpretation, quote unquote cool, physical tension, identified as self, institutional assessments, worry, and critics. Absolutely agree
Yes,
on all of those things.
yes, yes.
Yes.
So, what you want to know is what is the precursor that blocks the imagination? All those things.
But what I'm asking about, the whole point of this is that I'm in a writing residency next week at Exeter, and we're talking about our
Hmm.
project. We're talking about Bright Light Burning, and we're talking about what the arts are doing at the climate conference and what the arts can do in any of these kind of policy spaces. And what we're talking about is that obviously people are coming in with their own agendas and their thinking body and their science and this, that, and the other. And what we noticed and what we witnessed time after time with each performance, but especially the performance in the UK Pavilion, is that our performance then was a precursor to them opening up to something. So
Hmm.
when I'm talking about precursors, I'm talking about vulnerability. Is a vulnerability a precursor needed to tap into imagination? Is empathy a precursor to tap into imagination? What are the things that we in our plays, and I'm not just talking about at COP, but going forward, what is it that we in the arts can do to be a precursor to then the audience engaging with their imagination, because we're not going to be able to tackle their habits, right? We're not going to be able to. We're not training actors. We're in an audience. We're not going to be able to talk about necessarily maybe institutional awareness or cool. So what is it that we in our time period that we have with an audience as a precursor to a conversation that happens afterwards? What is it that you think that we can open up or do or provide, or what's the environment that we can create where then imagination could be fostered, or can
I
it?
think I think it can, and I think you hit it with the EV, empathy, vulnerability. And I
Is that
think that
it?
we
What
did it
else?
directly. Yeah, well, but I think we did it directly with with our particular work.
Hmm.
And so I think the empathy started off with um how we introduced ourselves to them with interacting with them before the show even began.
Hmm.
We were putting them in zones. We were welcoming them in. We were interacting with them. And as performers, it's quite vulnerable to put yourself into that situation where you're kind of like have to create a world for someone to be entering into. But I think that as soon as we began to interact with them, the play began.
Yeah.
And that is essentially what we do as a company, where the play begins when it's announced that the play is happening. But when we were in a situation like with what we did, it started off with people were coming in to sit down, but when they were sitting down, they were interacting with me, or they were interacting with me as the facilitator for you know that people don't understand. They didn't, for those who didn't see the show, the role that I played was someone who was a venue manager and at a satellite uh, uh, port destination for the final destination of where they were relocating.
Hmm.
And so I was already creating an environment for everyone that was entering, welcoming them and giving them their badges for the different regions that they were going to be coming from. And within the different regions that they were coming from, we had other actors that were from those regions that were looking for their badges that matched their own and were interacting with them. So then there was already this kind of softening of performance expectation, but broadening of what to anticipate in the sense of like, wow, this is not what I had anticipated. Oh, I don't. It's just a performance. I didn't know it was going to be a performance. It's kind of like it kind of placed it in a world. We placed it somewhere.
Hmm.
And so by placing it somewhere, there was a sense of community because we are all being placed somewhere, which fed into the dramaturgical choices of displacement and what does it mean to be replaced, and what do we take to these places, and what are the cultural symbols, artifacts, and memories that we take to these places. So we were in turn creating a world that allowed people to reflect on their relationship to place. Because once they got given a place, they had to go, "Oh, I'm from the Philippines. Oh, okay. I'm from India. Oh, okay. I'm from Singapore. Oh, okay." And I remember I would have people like they were like, "No, no, I'm not from the Singapore." Oh no, no, I'm not from India. I'm from I know, and there were some people that didn't want to interact with what was being offered, but
Mhm.
generally everyone, I mean, generally the majority of the people that were there wanted to engage with what was being offered. I think the vulnerability came into play with the actual writing and the emotional content of what we were addressing in the world of the play,
Mhm.
and because we're now uh, feeding into the vulnerability of every single person that was present for this conference. Everyone had a common goal and had a common desire for the embetterment of solutions for uh, climate sustainability. And so with that's how we were able to have a conversation with them. And because it was coming from different intersections from different places around the world. The majority of the people were the global majority, the global South. Um, uh, it put it into a perspective where people like that actually makes sense. This story coming from this place could really happen, and that's actually how that's kind of feedback that we got from the experts, both from the scientists and from the people from those different parts of the world. So I think that the imagination gets enlisted through a communal um engagement. I think it starts there, because as soon as there's a sense of connection to something that we all are a part of, which is innately the human imagination and the human ability to create something, and the human ability to make art, the human ability to tell story, the human ability to interact and to sense another human's state of being without speaking. And when you're able to do that, I think imagination automatically starts to be enlisted, because that's how we became a very strong species, because of our imagination and our abilities to imagine. And I think the other thing is that when you're going into an environment where people have decided to show up to a space, there is a that's their first offer in, I'm willing to give up something. I'm willing to give up my comfort of my everyday by going into this public space. And I may not know that that's what I'm doing, but I do it by stepping over the threshold of walking into the space, even if I'm willing or not. So if I'm the person that's creating an environment for the audience or whomever has entered into the room, I have to understand myself first within this interaction, because they're going to pick up everything that's happening with me. So because I'm grounded within the world that I'm welcoming and offering to the ones that are coming into my space, because spatially we have the power in the room, because we know where the exit signs are. And so because of that, we can design a world where the natural impulse to want to be on alert because you don't know where the exit signs are and you're looking for the exit signs. And we've said, here, the exit signs are here and the exit signs are there. And this is the world that you're going to be in once upon a time. And then all of a sudden, something happens. And I think the importance is to not have a broad stroke and say that's how everyone is going to receive it.
No, I'm not. I'm not looking for a broad stroke of receiving. I'm looking for a formula for setting it up.
A plus B equals C, Adam.
And what is A? What is B? What is C?
Adam plus Budi equals community. Commune.
Yeah, well, probably.
Yes,
Like,
community, honey. The
like,
commune.
what I'm thinking. What I was thinking about when you were saying all that was, it reminds me of play, right? Like Homo ludens, like the idea that we as a species are a playful species. We learn through play. We engage through play. We teach through play. And I'm wondering, is a play a precursor to imagination, or is an imagination a precursor to play, or can they be interchangeable? Can they go back and forth? You don't have to have one without the other. Like, is it something that we are obviously we're trying to engage their imagination, but are we trying to engage their sense of play and then their imagination is engaged, or are we engaging their imagination and then from that a sense of play comes from it, or are they interchangeable?
I think that human beings learn through mimicry. That's how we learn. As a pack of species of humans, that's actually what made us different. That's actually what separated us from the monkeys, because the monkeys don't actually do monkey see monkey do. Human beings do monkey see monkey do. We learn through mimicry. So if you look at the art, we all great art from our ancestors started off with apprenticeship. You learn from mimicry, but we also learn from behavior. Behavior tells us how to behave, right? We learn from our parents. We mimic our parents. We mimic the world. We actually know the world we're in when we enter a space. Oh, I'm at a dinner party. This is the way that I'm supposed to be, how I'm supposed to act. We look to each other to learn where to be. And so as the person who is creating the environment, the when the people enter, they learn through mimicry. They learn like present, like through you I know myself.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about the Hinduism of Lord Shiva looking into the eyes of his wife Parvati, and he says, through you I know myself. It's through the other that I recognize my own traits and capabilities and possibilities. And so we mimic these things. It's all learned behavior. Even imagination is learned behavior. We learn to play by watching others play.
Mm-hmm.
A plus B equals C. A plus B equals M.
No, I still don't. It's not doing it for
What?
me yet. No, I'm not. You're not. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying it's not answering my question. So I need to rethink my question. What is
So
it I'm
what's the
trying to
question
get?
you actually want to ask?
The question is the question I'm trying to get at of, what are we trying to do with play? What are we trying to do with our shows? What are we trying to do with theater in general? What are we trying to do with the arts in general? That's the ultimate question. What is, yeah, what are we trying to do with the arts?
Well, I know what I'm trying to do.
Which is what?
Impact humanity.
Right. How do we do that is what I'm trying to is what I'm trying to find. In the room, we've got people, strangers show up, and best case scenario, they're not strangers anymore. They're not people that are just going to go about their day and go do their laundry list of things, and they are changed, right? They leave the space and they are changed. What I'm looking for, what I'm trying to figure out is, what is it that we do in the room so that they are changed? So
Well, I
I've
know
already heard.
the objective is to get people to think, to get people to feel, and to show them who they are and their capacity to be human, whether it be a hero or a villain, right? And in those ways, if those are the objectives, there's so many ways in which that you could do that, depending on the story that you're telling, depending on the audience that you're interacting with. But those are questions you can ask yourself. How am I going to get them to think about this? How am I going to get them to feel about this? How can they see themselves in what I'm doing? And oftentimes what happens is when you put on the pressure of I want people to see themselves, all you really need to do is to allow yourself to be seen, and then the rest gets taken care of.
So, for instance, you've mentioned something without mentioning something, which I think I have pegged as number one thing that needs to happen. And it's in our definition of what theater is anyway, so I think it works. The temporary alternate reality. You have to create a temporary alternate reality so that there can be vulnerability, so that there can be empathy. So clearly, temporary alternate reality is a must. It's a prerequisite to getting them out of their head and into being able to think, being able to feel, being able to see themselves and others. So, okay, great. I got one thing, temporary alternate reality, that's got to happen. Engagement, I think, is another thing that you've said. We've got to engage them somehow. Like if this were actual play, not just a play, but actual play amongst children, physical engagement is how we learn. Mimicry is a physical engagement. So that engagement is somehow a part of it, whether it's sensorially engaging or intellectually engagement. The engagement, there's got to be some kind of, there's got to be something to do, whether that's passively consume, actively participate. So in this temporary alternate reality, we have to have something to have the audience engage with intellectually, sensorially, emotionally, psychically, spiritually. Okay, I'm feeling good about these two answers so far. That's the beginning of a formula.
You
A
can
plus
call the
B.
some the some you can call the something an artifact.
The engage with an artifact. Is that what you're
There
saying?
needs to be an artifact in which, so you say there needs to be something in which that something is an actual artifact.
Okay.
The artifact can be a performance, can be a play, can be a poem, can
Song.
be
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
song, can be a
Right. Yeah. Okay. What else? What are the other foundational things? This is good. This is helpful. This is very helpful for me. I don't know if it's helpful for anybody who's listening right now, but screw them. This is for me. So
baby. Like I
I called it a
said,
speak pipe. You know, if they want to call in a speak pipe and have their own questions, they
it's
can have their
true.
own
You did.
questions.
You did call into speak pipe. Your speak
Exactly.
pipe is WhatsApp to Budi. Their
That's
speak
exactly.
pipe is speakpipe.com/theater of others. That's theater with a TRE, speakpipe.com /theater of others. Theater with a
That's right.
TRE.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I think well then my question for you is why?
Why? Why do I need this formula, or why do we make art?
I think the why to both those questions actually.
I mean, the answer to the why of the first one, why do I need this formula, is the same reason that we have spent time trying to define what theater is, and why we spent time trying to define what theater does. I think we too many people go into this just doing it because they do it without thinking about the fundamental reasons why we do these things. And I think we started the podcast with the idea of questioning why we do anything that we do, because so much of it isn't working. And um, I'm watching things and I'm teaching people, and they're not having these questions. There's no fundamental reevaluation, and I think the world is in a really crazy, fluxy place right now where nothing makes sense, and it doesn't make sense also for us to hold on to old definitions and old reasons for doing things when it's so much easier to just stay at home and watch Netflix, or AI is taking everybody's job. This is the last real thing that exists out there. So why are we doing it? Why are we doing it? So I think we have an answer. We want to impact society. Yes. How do we do that? And you're right. There are 1,000 different ways of doing it, but I think there are fundamental things that always have to be there to do those 1,000
Well, I mean,
different things.
when you throw this AI conversation in, it's like, why is to remind us of what it is to be a human being.
Yeah.
It's a reminder of what it is to be a human being.
How do we do that in the room? How do we remind them that they're a human being? We already said we've got the engagement. We have to engage them with an artifact. I like that. That's really great. I'm holding on to that. How else do we remind them that they're a human being? How else do we?
Well, we create space to reflect on it,
That's the temporary
where
alternate reality. Yeah.
right, the temporary alternate reality also becomes a question as well, because it goes, is this real or is it not real? How long will this last? Is this does this does this does the duration of this fall into the realm of life,
The
or does
question.
the duration of this expand and open me up into a possibility that's bigger than what I dream of being present in my
The,
life?
it's a question. There's a question underneath everything, isn't there?
Mm. And there has to be, because no one knows the actual answer. No one knows the answer.
So you need a temporary alternate reality. You need engagement with an artifact, and you need a question.
Yeah.
I like that. Hmm.
I think
Anything
that
else you
makes
think?
sense.
I think it makes sense. I'm not poking holes in those yet. Is there anything else? Don't
But
want
I
to leave
think
anything
that's
out.
enough, because anything more than that becomes too much. It needs to be like really good Italian cuisine. Only a few ingredients that you can control, and that leaves space for the unknown.
It's
I
like
think that's the fourth one.
the unknown.
That's the fourth one,
No,
leaving space for the unknown.
I think that might be too as well. Um, it's like a stool, right? You need all three of these, otherwise it's going to fall down, or all four of these,
Yeah.
otherwise it's going to fall down. And this is what makes for sloppy or non-engaging
Well,
art.
it's the four legs in the seat. It's like,
Yeah,
because the other thing is like, the unknown is gravity. The unknown is nature.
yeah,
The unknown is real life. And
yeah.
that's what makes theater important, because it lives in the realm of the unknown. There are factors within theater that you can never control.
Mm. Mm. Okay, I feel satisfied with this answer. It gives me lots to think about and lots to write about, and it also helps me obviously make my own theater. Have I fulfilled the fundamental things that need to happen, or am I leaving something open? And I'll be completely honest, looking at these things now, I know that I have made work where I have not done at least one of these things. Sometimes I've definitely done some shows where there's at least two of these things missing. But that space for the unknown, sometimes there's not even a question, you're just doing the show. Ugh, right? Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Engagement could be poorly engaged. You're just, putting it up there. Or I put too much focus on something, too much focus on the temporary alternate reality. When something is over designed and you spend all that time making that world, but you don't have a question as to why you're making that world. There's not that question that's burning inside of an artwork. It's just really beautiful. But I don't get it. I don't know if there's anything to
Mm-hmm.
get.
Mm-hmm. I think that makes sense. Because for me, I spend a lot I love, me, I love the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
I love the unknown. Um, and the clarity of the artifact is what I often am challenged by at the beginning of a project, because the clarity of the artifact happens from I find it in the unknown. I find it in the interaction with the alternate realities of rehearsal. I find it in the questions that we're constantly asking. But I have challenges in actually seeing the artifact fully at the beginning of a project.
Mm.
I'll have elements that contribute to the main principle of the artifact of what's being made, but it's ultimately the unknown that I embrace that helps shape the artifact.
Do you think using this metaphor as a stool, I like this metaphor. Do you think this stool needs to be balanced?
I think you need to be able to sit on it.
Well,
Stools are
yes.
wobbly sometimes. Stools are wobbly sometimes. You know, sometimes they feel sturdy. Sometimes you can stand on them. Sometimes you can't. Ultimately, a stool is meant to be sat on. If you can't sit on it, and that's what we want people to do in our audiences, to be able to sit and be able to watch the shit.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But I love the stool because there's something that has to hold you up, but you need legs to do it as well.
Yeah.
The stool of theater.
Yeah. Okay.
We often hear pillars. We often hear these are the pillars of the institution. These are the pillars of the philosophy. These are the pillars. But
I like this is a much humbler approach.
yeah, and it's like it reminds me of the learning tree, even though that book now is quite problematic these days.
What's the learning tree? I don't know this book.
The learning tree, Adam, or is it the giving tree?
The Giving Tree,
The
Shel
giving
Silverstein?
tree.
Shel Silverstein.
Yes, the giving
Yes.
tree. The
Okay.
giving tree.
Yeah.
It's quite problematic now.
Why? I mean, I haven't read it in forever, so I don't know.
Well, because it's capitalism and white male privilege.
Really?
If you look at the tree as an indigenous body, or as yeah, as an indigenous body, the young white boy takes and takes and takes and takes and takes and takes and takes until there's nothing but a stump left.
Hmm.
And the tree is subservient to the capitalist white boy that becomes an old man that finally uses the tree as a stump to sit on because he has nothing else to do and has no more use for the tree. And then it says, and the tree was happy. It finishes off with, and the tree was happy. That's like, and the slaves were happy. That's like, and the slaves learned skills. So it was good for them too. And it's interesting because I had always thought of the Giving Tree as a very beautiful story. And it wasn't until I was in Australia and I had my First Nations Indigenous students who have a very, very clear relationship with nature, an ancestral relationship with nature. And so the concept of defacing a tree in that way was quite violent to them,
Mm.
like really violent and traumatizing. The story was traumatizing. And I was so excited. I was like, it's such a beautiful story.
One of the most divisive books in children's literature. The controversy stems from whether the relationship between the main character, a boy, and the eponymous tree should be interpreted as positive, the tree gives the boy selfless love, or negative, the boy and the tree have an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I was brought up with, and I always thought it was such a beautiful story. I was like, oh, the tree, but I was brought up with American capitalism,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I
Yeah.
was like, oh, and once again, and this is why y'all need to travel and leave your countries and meet other people from other parts of the world, because
Amen.
I would never have understood that if I was not literally in my class where my Indigenous First Nations Aboriginal students were literally hurt by the actions of the story.
Hmm.
I would never have even
How did how did
have even
how did you bring it
how
up? Like
did
how
how
did
the
how,
I because I was so excited because I had found I found the book. I got the book. I saw the book. I think I saw the book just before I came home from America, and I was really excited. I brought it. I was like, I could have it in my could have it in my library. I'm so excited to have this book in my library, and I
yeah.
was really excited. And I even had one of my students read it because I was like, it's such a beautiful story. Aram. Aram, I love you. And Aram was so beautiful. He tried to read it and he was like, wait, this is traumatizing. And I still was like, come on, no, it's actually not that bad. It's not that bad. And I forced him to read it all the way to the end. And I really didn't understand it until the very end.
Mm,
And also seeing how my students were really, really impacted by it.
mm,
Like it hurt them.
mm.
I was so excited. And it reminds me, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the the old Danish couple that way back in the day, like when I was just a young little frau, helping this Danish couple learn how to heal themselves in Bali. And they were so excited. I was with Per Bra, and they were his friends, super wealthy Danish couple, and he couldn't move his legs, and they had they had asked Per and I to do some healing work with them and take them, to the black sand, and we were taking them to healers and doing all this stuff to help him figure out how to get his legs back.
Mm.
And I was having a grumpy morning because I just really, because they were staying at this really nice hotel, like it was a really, really nice hotel. And like whenever we picked them up, we always had a really nice breakfast. We had like like an American continental breakfast, and I was just like so excited. I was like, I don't want Balinese food today. I want an American breakfast, right?
Yeah.
And that day that we were like, we had to leave early. We didn't have time for breakfast. And I was so grumpy because I wanted the breakfast. I was just like on the beach, really grumpy. And they had turned to Per, and Per told me this later. But they had said to him, "Oh, look at him. He looks just like little black. He looks like just like little black Sambo."
Oh.
And Per's like, "Shh, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that." And they're like, "What? What? Little Black Sambo is such a good, it's a really great story,
Oh.
children's story." Because they were still selling that book in
Yeah.
Denmark.
Yeah.
Little Black Sambo that runs around a tree so much,
Mm-hmm.
so fast that it turns into butter, but yeah, like it was still being sold as a children's book.
Yeah.
So much so that when they learned, they're like, "Oh fuck, that's horrible." But they sent me a copy. They were like, it exists. Look, this is a copy." And I had it, and then a friend of mine stole it because they were just like appalled. They couldn't believe it. And they wanted to keep it for their own kitsch. So but like they didn't mean. They really didn't
They
mean
didn't mean it,
anything
of
by it.
course. They were
They thought
ignorant.
they thought it was so adorable. They were being so nice because they were so they were so kind and like uh uh really happy to because he started walking. He would wake up and started walking. Like he was
Mm.
like actually healing, you know. But like when they said that, he's like, "Oh, don't say that to him."
Yeah.
Especially because I was also having a really grumpy day too. They're like, "Don't say that to," because he knew me. He was like, "Don't say that to him. Don't say that to
You
him."
gonna you cut somebody. You'll cut somebody.
Yeah, I will cut me a Danish man. Cut him. I will cut him up.
Cut a Dane.
Yeah. I'll cut a Dane. I'll cut him up. Cut him like butter. Cut him like butter. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, but like, yeah. So that and I and I, Aram, I'm so sorry for making you read that, and all of my students, I'm so sorry for having you listen to that story, and I understand now. And I haven't read that, I haven't read that out loud or to myself since that day. So know that that story stopped with me on that day, my lovely students. But yeah, so I don't know why we went on that tangent, but I can't
I don't know.
remember. But
I don't know.
I'm sure it had to do with theater.
God. Wonderful. Thank you all for coming on this tangent with us. We don't know why we were on this tangent, but it has something to do with theater, probably.
I can't remember. I can't remember. See, but this is the thing. This is why we need Jack. If Jack wasn't
Yeah.
in the show,
He would be
if he
typing in the
wasn't so
show notes right now.
popular,
He would say he'd be typing to us. He'd say you were talking
he'd
about
send
X.
us. Yeah, he'd send
He'd
us
say-
chat. He would send
he'd
us a
say-
chat. He'd be like, "You were talking about something."
He'd say, "Ladies, can you bring it back to the topic at hand?" Yeah. Well, whatever, Jack. Spend time with your parents or whatever. You know.
Yeah, well, he
Mommy and
deserves
Daddy
it.
are
He's a
here. You could
hardworking
spend with
boy.
Mommy and Daddy with us. You know.
Yeah, but he's a hardworking boy, and
I know
it's
he
nice
is.
to have your parents supporting you
We're
when you're a famous artist in Melbourne, Australia.
we're very proud of him. Yes.
We are very
Our-
proud of him.
Our son is doing very well.
He's doing so good. I think we should take a break and
Okay,
come back with some
great.
provocations. How's that sound?
This sounds great. I can't wait to hear what Jack gives us.
Yeah, that's true. Ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary conforming individuals, you are listening to the stereo sounds of J.D.E. Jack David Burmeister. The mystery. Wow, the mystery.
Yeah.
You know, I have to say, his composition, his composing is so delicate. It's gotten to this really refined, delicate quality. Like I always get really excited to listen to it because it's like, okay, so how's he gonna take the provocation of the music that we're gonna give him? And it just turns into this really, it's so filmic. You know what I mean? Steven Spielberg. Hey, you need to you need to give our guy a job. Adam,
Yeah,
it's provocation time.
it is.
Are you ready? Do you have any provocations?
Yeah. I'm just going to ask the audience to check our work, to look at our figures, to look at our formula and see if it sound. The things that you need, fundamental things you need for the stool of theater, to engage.
It sounds like a big poop. It sounds like a
It
really
does.
healthy poop.
Sometimes it is. We've both seen some really big poops on stage.
Speaking of which,
But
have you seen the gut health documentary on Netflix?
no, I heard opposing things to it, but I'm not going to get into that. I haven't watched it.
Have you
So.
heard about the blender?
My provocation? What? What?
Watch the show. Go to your provocation.
Okay. My provocation is check our work. Do these make sense to you? Fundamental things you need to have sound art, to make not sound art, but like art that is
Temporary
sound.
alternate reality.
Temporary alternate reality.
Artifact. Question.
Engagement
Yeah,
with an
no.
artifact, a question, and a space for the unknown. That's the formula, the things that you need to have as a precursor before you can have play, before you can have
Your
engagement
stool.
with the audience, before you can have your stool, your imagination. If you find anything wrong with that, call in and write to us. Budi. Provocation.
Is there another word for stool? Can we have
I know.
what's the Arabic word for stool? What's the Arabic word for stool?
The Arabic word for stool? I'm not sure that's going to be a
Yeah.
good.
Check your Google Translate right now. What's the
All right,
Arabic
I'm
word for
doing it.
stool?
All right. Stool is braz.
Braz. B-R-A-Z.
B-R-A-Z.
Braz. The Braz of theater.
Burazon. That's not at all.
Brazun.
That's not at all how it was spelled, but okay.
The Brazun of theater.
Well, I'll double check that translation before we start.
Talk to your people. Talk to your people.
I'll talk to my people before we put it on a T-shirt or something.
Yeah. Talk to your people. Talk to your people. But I just don't. The English word just does not work for me because I just think poop. Every time I hear stool, I think
because
a healthy poop.
It's just poop. Yeah, and I don't want people thinking about poop when they're thinking about our theater. That's the last.
I want people to think about poop when they're thinking about gut health, but I don't want people to be thinking about poop when they're thinking about our theater.
Amen. All right, your provocation.
My provocation is to see if you could add one to this.
Yeah.
Is there one we're missing?
Yeah.
I would really love you to call in and say, what about this? And if you want to add onto it, we'll even discuss it. And if it's something that we think with what we do should be on the list, we can add on to it. I think this is also a really nice what I like about this is it's almost we're creating a recipe. Like we've got the definition of theater. So like this is the cake you're going to eat, and these are the ingredients, and this is how you make it.
Yes, you have seen through my ploy. I am looking for a recipe for theater for the encyclopedia that is this podcast. Yes.
But see, AI is expensive. This is why we don't pay for the AI on BuzzFeed. So we'll have to transcribe it manually.
Yeah, exactly.
It's expensive, y'all. AI is expensive. I'm just waiting for when it's free.
No,
and then we can do AI.
We don't want it free. We don't want to use AI. AI is not good.
I don't like it.
Did you see that? Did you see that Apple commercial that just came out?
No, what is it doing?
So they've just made another iPad, and it's thin. And so what they did is they had like all of like artistic elements and culture, like books and paintings and sculptures and like trumpet and all these things, and then they just squeezed it, and they just kept crushing these things. So like there's just like a weight that's coming down, and it crushes this trumpet, and these paints get squished, and these books get crushed, and all these little things just get destroyed, and then it comes up and there's a little iPad. So like I understand what they were saying, but like everybody in the artist community is going like, yes, this is the problem. You're using all of our shit and not paying us for it, and you're destroying our work so that you can have your iPad, so you can have your AI. And they had to apologize, and they've pulled the commercial. They actually said we missed the mark on it. We didn't realize, we didn't see it, but now that you've said it to us, we absolutely see it. They pull the commercial, so yeah. Anyway,
I yeah, I don't know how long we're gonna live, Adam.
oh God, wow, that got dark real quick.
Well, no, death is not darkness. Death is the ultimate release. But I just, this body that I have is now past 50. And I just think about these things of like, okay, so I know I'm gonna live to be 109, but like,
Wow.
yeah, and living to 109 is gonna entail me having to endure a lot of technological advancement.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I just go, uh, yeah, it's like, have you seen what's his name? The comedian, his new uh um comedy special on Netflix, the one that's telling everyone secrets.
Oh, Cat Williams.
Yeah.
Oh, I turned it off.
Have you seen it?
I turned it
You
off.
turned it off?
I was
What
20
part did you
minutes
turn
in it.
off? When did you turn off?
I was 20 minutes in and I hadn't laughed yet. So I was
Oh, the funniest part was were you there for the Ozempic part?
no. I didn't see Ozempic.
He's like, people in Hollywood is telling lies, but I'm gonna tell you the truth. And he was talking about Ozempic, and then he goes, Oprah has not looked as good as she has in years. And I just started laughing because Oprah is going to be on our podcast, so we get to talk to her about that.
That's true. That's true. We can ask her about her Ozempic use. Do you and
Because
did you?
she bought Weight
Yeah.
Watchers. So is
Yeah.
it Weight Watchers or is it the Ozempics?
It may be that you and Oprah have many other things in common. You're both on Ozempic,
Oh,
right?
I don't use Ozempic.
That's your
I'm
diabetic
not on
stuff.
Ozempic.
That's your
I'm
diabetes
not on
medicine.
Ozempic. I'm on Trulicity. I'm not on Ozempic. I'm not an Ozempic hoe.
It's the same thing, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Mm. Hmm. So when there was an Ozempic shortage and you were worried about getting your medication,
I wasn't worried because I'm not on Ozempic. On Zembic. I'm not on Zembic. I'm not on Zembic.
you're not on the Zim. You're not on the Zim.
Oh, the
You're on.
Ozempic shame. Oh, the Ozempic shame.
Come on.
Oh,
Drake's on Ozempic. What's wrong? Drake is on Ozempic.
Drake his house just got raided, so I don't relate to Drake.
God, the last thing we need is for the Theater Brothers podcast to be in the Kendrick Lamar Drake beef that's going on right now. We're going to be in a rap battle between the two of them.
Wait a minute. It's not even beef. It's just shade.
It's just shade.
They're just throwing shade. They're just throwing shade.
Yeah, they're just. Yeah.
What's wrong with throwing shade? That's what you do.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, we're JJ Fat and we're here to rock. Rhymes like us can never be stopped.
I'm just glad
what happened to those days.
I'm just glad that hip hop has moved on to this kind of shade instead of us losing Biggie and Tupac. That was it. That was the shade. That was some shade.
That was not shade. That was violence.
Yeah,
that was violence.
Let Kendrick and Drake just spit bars at each other. That's fine. Nobody's shooting anybody. Who cares?
But Kendrick is the rapper and Drake's not.
Well, yeah.
Kendrick is the real fucking deal.
Of course he is.
Drake's a little Canadian boy that's trying to get us. It is Kendrick Lamar's world, and Drake is just the squirrel trying to get a nut.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Because all I gotta say is, the lyric of the lifetime was made by Kendrick Lamar.
His Pulitzer Prize winning To Pimp a Butterfly.
Boom. King Kunta. when he says, "If I got a brown nose for some gold, then I'd rather be a bum than a motherfucking baller." Boom. That is a lyric of a lifetime.
Yeah.
So,
How will
let it
they
be
know?
known.
How will we know if they have questions or provocations, Budi? They'll go to speakpipe.com/theaterofothers.com. That's speakpipe.com
Yes.
/theaterofothers, theaterofothers with an R-E, theaterofothers, all one word. Leave a 90-second voice message on there. We'll play it on air. If they don't want to have their voices heard, they can send it to podcast@theaterofothers.com. And we are also on Instagram, Facebook, and our website.
Instagram, y'all.
But the only way they're
Yes,
going to
it's
know
true.
about these deep provocation questions, these deep philosophical, esoteric questions that we keep having for them this year is if they do what, Budi?
They've got to get their hair done by Aisha in DC. And also subscribe, because we come to your inbox. What? Week. Single week. We give you a podcast. We've done it for 5 years.
Yeah.
5 years we've done it.
Almost 250 episodes now.
Week.
Yeah.
And if you want to get into the game, into the system, into the conversation, you have to what? Subscribe.
That's right.
And if you like us, you can do like my Uber driver does. You give me 5 stars, I give you 5 star, 5 star, 5 star, 5 star, 5 star. It's a win, zero sum. We all got the game. We all got the game. You got to know how to play the game if you're going to win the game. And you got to be ready for the game so you ain't got to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
That's right.
And then if you really like us, you can leave us a little message. Give some feedback. I want to give them 5.1 stars. These two have so much to offer in the world of theater education. I need to give them 5.1 stars. And then we go into the algorithm. Bam!
Bam.
What? We go from the top 5% podcasts in the world to the top 1% podcasts in the world. You know what happens when that happens. You know what happens when that happens. You know, Adam Marple, what happens? Who's going to come?
Oprah comes on to discuss Ozempic.
Oprah. Yes, Oprah's going to come. Oprah's going to come. And you know when Oprah comes, who's going to come? Beyonce. Yes, of course. Beyonce, of course. And you know who always be following Beyonce.
On her coattails, Michelle
Obama. Okay, always. The top three with the number one top 1% in the world. So you know you want to be a part of this game. Hate the player, not the game, baby. You got to stay ready so you ain't got to do what, Adam Marple?
Be ready.
Get ready. Amen. I love you, Adam.
I love you too.
I'll see you next week.
Always, of course. There's no other choice.
Okay. That sounds good to me, baby. I'm going to have a little bit more of the blood of Christ.
Compels you. Yep.
It compels me
to
tip my glass to our listeners, and we will see you, and you will see us, and you will hear us, and we'll be in your inbox because you subscribe next week.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Theater Brothers podcast. Make sure to visit our website, theaterofothers.org, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. A special thank you to Purple Planet for the music you've heard. The Theater of Others creates a shared community of artists and audiences for the purposes of exploring the most profound issues of our lives and times. We believe the play watches the audience. The audience is necessary, and they are witness to what happens. And you get to be witness to us making that happen. The purpose of this podcast is to open up our process and let you in. We're peeling back the curtain, so to speak, and encouraging you to follow along, to ponder, prod, and question, to join us and criticize us if need be. Being a witness is no passive task and requires much from you. Are you up for the journey? Be sure to tune in next week for our next journey.